Dear you, night has a way of lowering the volume of the world while turning up the sound inside you. The lights are dim, the rooms are still. The day finally loosens its grip, and that's when your thoughts begin to speak. You didn't plan for it to happen this way. You went to bed tired, maybe even hopeful that sleep would come quickly. You closed your eyes, told yourself it was time to rest. But instead of drifting off, your mind opened doors you didn't know were waiting. Memories, questions, conversations you replayed, futures you imagined and worried over. The quiet made space for everything you hadn't had time to feel. During the day, you managed. You stayed busy enough to keep thoughts orderly. Tasks lined up neatly. Messages needed replies. Responsibilities filled the hours. But at night, there were no distractions left. No one needed anything from you. Nothing demanded your attention. And without that structure, your mind wandered freely, sometimes gently, sometimes relentlessly. You stared at the ceiling. You shifted positions, hoping comfort would bring calm. You checked the time, calculating how many hours of sleep you might still get. And with every passing minute, the pressure grew not just to sleep, but to solve. To figure something out, to understand why certain things still bothered you, to replay moments you wished had gone differently, to prepare for things that hadn't happened yet. You weren't thinking because you wanted to. You were thinking because your mind finally had room. That's what made it so frustrating. You told yourself to stop. You reminded yourself that nothing could be fixed at this hour. You promised you'd deal with it tomorrow, but the thoughts didn't listen. They felt urgent, even when they weren't. They felt important, even when they led nowhere. You wondered why night made everything heavier, why doubts felt sharper, why regrets felt closer, why worries felt more convincing. You wondered if something was wrong with you for not being able to turn it off like other people seem to. But here's the quiet truth you didn't know yet. Nighttime thinking isn't a flaw. It's what happens when a mind that's been holding things together all day finally gets a chance to speak. If you're reading this and recognizing yourself, it's because many people experience this same pattern. They are thoughtful, attentive, responsible during the day and restless, self-questioning, and vulnerable at night. It's not because they're weak. It's because they've been strong for too long without pause. You weren't failing at rest. You were finally hearing yourself. Nighttime thoughts feel louder because the usual filters are gone. During the day, your attention is directed outward toward tasks, conversations, decisions. At night, that outward focus dissolves, and when it does, the mind naturally turns inward. Your past self understands now why the thoughts that arrived weren't random. They were the ones that didn't get space earlier. The unfinished emotions, the unresolved questions. The moments you brushed past because there wasn't time to linger. You didn't ignore them on purpose. You postponed them to function. Overthinking at night isn't about thinking too much. It's about thinking too late. It's the result of carrying things quietly until the day is done. And once the body slows, the mind finally asks to be heard. You might have noticed patterns in what came up. Thoughts about whether you're doing enough, whether you're making the right choices, whether you said the right thing, whether you're falling behind without realizing it. These weren't accidents. They reflected the pressure you carried while awake, the pressure to be capable, to be consistent, to get it right. Your past self sees now that night amplified uncertainty because uncertainty had nowhere else to go. When there's no distraction, the mind tries to create certainty by revisiting scenarios. It rehearses conversations. It replays decisions. It imagines outcomes. Not because it enjoys it, but because it's searching for relief. But relief doesn't come that way. The mind believes that if it thinks enough, it will arrive at peace. But peace doesn't come from analysis. It comes from safety. And at night, when the world quiets down, the mind checks in, are we safe? Are things okay? Did we miss something? If you've been living in a constant state of readiness, anticipating needs, managing responsibilities, staying composed, your mind stays alert even when your body wants rest. It doesn't know how to let go yet. It's learned that vigilance equals protection. This is why telling yourself to stop thinking never works. It treats the mind like a problem rather than a messenger. And messengers only get louder when they're dismissed. Your past self understands now that the solution was never to force silence. It was to offer reassurance, to acknowledge the thoughts without following them down every path, to let them exist without turning them into emergencies. Nighttime thoughts aren't predictions. They aren't verdicts. They're signals that something wants care. And care doesn't mean fixing everything before morning. It means recognizing that your mind is trying to process what your days didn't allow. Once you see this, the fear softens. The thoughts don't disappear immediately, but they lose some of their authority. They become background noise instead of commands. And in that shift, rest becomes possible again. Not because everything is resolved, but because you've stopped demanding resolution in the dark. If it's night where you are now, or if you remember nights like this, well, let me speak to you gently. You don't need to solve your life tonight. You don't need to reach clarity before sleep. You don't need to answer every question that appears. You are allowed to rest, even when things feel unfinished. The thoughts that come at night feel convincing because you're tired. Fatigue gives them weight they don't deserve. What feels urgent now may feel manageable in daylight. What feels overwhelming now may soften with rest. This isn't denial, it's perspective. You can begin by changing how you relate to the thoughts, not by trying to eliminate them. When one appears, notice it without chasing it. Let it pass through like a sound outside your window. It doesn't need a response. It doesn't need a conclusion. Breathe slowly. Feel the weight of your body supported. Let the room hold you for a moment. You've done enough for today. There will be time, real time, daylight time, to think things through. There will be opportunities to reflect, to plan, to decide. Night is not the moment for judgment. Night is for gentleness. If you're someone whose mind gets loud when the world gets quiet, that doesn't make you broken. It makes you thoughtful. It means you care. It means you've been carrying things with intention. And caring deeply sometimes looks like overthinking when you're exhausted. Be kind to yourself in these moments. You don't need to be productive tonight. You don't need to improve yourself tonight. You don't need to figure out what comes next tonight. You only need to let yourself be here, in this moment without pressure. Over time, as you create more space during the day for your inner world, nights will soften. Not because you'll stop thinking altogether, but because the thoughts won't be so pent up. They won't need to rush in all at once. They'll trust that they'll be heard again. For now, remind yourself, I am safe enough to rest, even if things are uncertain. Even if questions remain, uncertainty doesn't mean danger. It means you're human, living a life that's still unfolding. Let your breath slow. Let your shoulders drop. Let the darkness be neutral instead of threatening. You are not alone with your thoughts. You are simply with yourself. And you don't have to carry yourself through the night by force. Sleep will come when it's ready. Rest can exist even before sleep does. You've done what you can today. It's enough. Sincerely, you.